what I'm saying? Yeah. The fanatic. Where we keep it 100, keep it real. That's the only way we know how to be. Talking that sports talk. You know what I'm saying? Straight out of South Carolina. Upstate, A64. Yeah. The FANATTIC. The fanatic where we keep it OG. We talking sports, so I call what.
Welcome into the Fanatic Sports Channel for sports fans by a sports fan. It is your boy, Coach I. As you can see from what's going on here, man, we got the Oregon Ducks season preview with my man, Rian Winter. Tell them where they can find you at, Ryan.
Oh, man, thank you guys for watching so much, man. Sports Chat 503 is my handle on YouTube. You can go to Twitter. I'm on Twitter a little bit. I don't spend that much time over there, but YouTube, Sports Chat 503. I do Duck videos, Pac-12 videos, national college football, stuff like that throughout the year. Fired up.
Hey, that's right, man. Go out to YouTube, subscribe to his channel, check him out. It's always some good content. Man, you said something in your video the other day. USC, you said they got the best. They're the best 7-on-7 team.
I mean, just on the transfer alone.
It's funny. It's funny,
it.
but it's accurate. It's funny, but it's accurate because they got all the skill players.
Yeah, and it's no slight. It's just, that's a team, USC, that we've been looking at every year. They always get the benefit of the doubt. They've done well, but you never at the level of expectations that they have for themselves, really. And so Lincoln Riley comes in, all the hype. Obviously, the biggest transfer of the whole thing is Caleb Williams, and they got a good situation going. They got a bunch of other transfers in there on their skill guys. They already have talent. I mean, USC's always got talent. It's just whether they can put it together and win most of their games. They're in a situation this year that I think they're going to be there. So I think they'll be right there at the end with Utah.
I gotta look and see. I gotta see. I think
I'm
like
optimistic.
You said, USC got a lot of talent. I think Oregon may have a little something to say about it, but we'll see, man. I think Utah will definitely be there. I'm high on Utah, but that's just me.
Well, they return a bunch of guys. Utah feels good about where they're at coming from last year to this year. I mean, they return a bunch of guys. So
exactly. So speaking of returning some guys, man, you guys, you got some guys you lost. You got some guys that you returned. You returned. Listen, one of the guys that I wanted at Georgia so bad when he came out, that doggone Noah Sewell. I wanted that dude bad. You know what I'm saying? Like he's a monster in that middle. That's good. And the other linebacker you got, he's just a freak of nature. The athletic guy. Yes, Justin Flo. That dude is. I mean, you lose the DN Thibodeau, but I think with those two guys back there, that'll make it easy to transition into, another D line. What D lineman are you looking forward to that's coming back?
Well, the big one is Brandon Dorlus from Florida. Dorlus is going to have a good year. He had a good year last year, set up maybe by, all the attention on KT. I think that gave him a little bit extra room inside to work, but he can go inside. He can go outside. He's very versatile. Popo Amawai is another one. Popo will come off an injury, but he's legit. Been there. I think the defense is the key concept here. You had players, we think in the last 3 years that the better talent's been on the defensive side at Oregon. So even though Oregon is known as their offensive school for years and years, the best defensive or the best talent on the team has been coming on that defensive side. I mean, you have KT, Noah Sewell, Justin Flo, like you all said, back to back years. It's like and Flo and Sewell came in the same year, and so you got some serious talent there. But you had a bunch of injuries last year. I mean, in the second week, you were already down 2 linebackers, including your starter, Drew Mathis, and Flo went out in that first game. And so, you went into that Ohio State game, and you were starting a guy, Keith Brown, who was a true freshman. That was unexpected. And of course, Keith did really well, and he's a stud as well. I mean, there's some really good players in that linebacker room. It's just, I think the excitement level is about this defensive coaching staff that's come in here with the new ideas of how to use these dudes properly, because it did feel like last year the defense was the bigger problem. Third down efficiency says it all for last year's team. They were top 5 in third down efficiency on offense. They were bottom 5 third down efficiency on defense. You can't be giving up those first downs like that.
That's the key down.
That's exactly right. So, and it's not that they didn't have the talent to do it. They just weren't doing it, whether it was scheme or anything else like that. I don't think it was an effort thing, but there were some serious injuries. I mean, you had some serious injuries on this team. And then at the end of the year, the injuries went over to the offensive side to where you had all these freshmen playing on wide receiver. You didn't have any wide receiver. You had walk-ons in the 2 deep. So, I mean, it was getting wild last year.
Listen, and to make it, I was just telling, I was talking to JJ from Pitt, like to make any kind of run at a conference championship, playoffs, whatever, you got to be deep. Because like you said, injuries happen, and like you starting to walk on, bro. Listen, everybody ain't these walk on stories. For all you out there, y'all hear about these walk on stories. It's he's a walk on, now he's an All-American. That dude had talent. He just chose to walk on at the school that he didn't get the scholarship from. That's all that is. So, but hey, man, with that said, man, y'all lost on offense. Y'all lost Travis Dye to USC. But you brought in Marquise Irvin from Minnesota. You got a running back from Western Kentucky, I think. And then your second lead rusher returns. So the offensive line, I think you guys only lost one person.
The offensive line is pretty solid. Yeah, the offensive line is definitely one of those positions I feel like was gifted the most with that COVID year. When you talk about COVID year, giving an extra dude time to be on the weight machines, time to be in the all the nutrition, everything else these cats are doing, that's got to benefit the offensive and defensive line the most. I mean, obviously the skill cats are using that too, but the defensive offensive linemen, they get one more year in the weight room, one more year eating as much as they can, whatever they can do. I mean, these dudes are ready. So I think across the front, they know what they got with their offensive line. Again, hopefully injuries, don't take too big of a handle on this team, but there's dudes in the 2 deep too. The offensive line room staff, and that coming off of last year's coaching staff, that's Cristobal's baby, right? So Cristobal was a whole offensive line mindset. I mean, he'd be taking offensive linemen in the recruiting class he didn't even need. He just like, this is too big. I can't give it up. I got to have him too.
Hey, that's that Southern recruiting, baby. We got to have them big uglies, baby.
I know. So there's plenty of dudes there for the offensive line. You're right about the transfers on the running back side. The running back side, I think we're doing pretty well because you've got some talent in the room. You got some young talent in the room, but you got some talent. The key thing is a dude named Sean Dollars. So Sean Dollars had been out. He got injured, and he hasn't really had the real green light yet in his career. He actually came in fairly, long ago. I mean, he was in that 2019 Rose Bowl or 2020 Rose Bowl with Justin Herbert, so he's been around a little bit, but he had a full year off with the injury, got injured in spring, missed the whole year. So he's going to be coming back with a major chip on his shoulder. And he came out of high school as one of the best running backs on the West Coast. So he's got something to say. Byron Cardwell's the other one, though. Byron Cardwell looked really good last year as a true freshman. So, he wearing that number 21, which is very special. Pretty much anywhere in the running back room, you get to wear 21. But at Oregon, with LaMichael James and some other dudes wearing that 21 is pretty big in the past. So he's doing his thing, true sophomore. And then you've got all those transfers. I do think you're going to see something with those transfers as well. So we're excited. The main thing for us is we just want to see what the offense is going to do. We think we know what the defense is going to do. The defense is going to tighten up. It's going to be better scheme. We know we saw some crazy stuff last year with Dan Lanning with all the different schemes that he had. He had those linebackers up. He had those dudes in the 2-point and the 3-point. Offensive linemen didn't know what the hell was going on. They was pointing at 3 different dudes. They didn't know who they were going to try to take. So we know we're going to have on the defensive side. It's the offensive side that's the biggest question. We got Bo Nix coming in. We don't really know who's necessarily going to be. We think it's going to be Bo Nix, but of course they have the open competition.
So
and then we think the ball is going to be in the air. And it hasn't been in the air at Oregon for a long time. I mean, because Chip Kelly ran the ball. He was one of the best coach, talk about running game. He posted some of the best running numbers we've seen in Oregon history. So they were a running team with Chip. They were a running team with Helfrich for that little bit. Even with Marcus Mariota had the Heisman, they were still running options.
Run the ball.
Yeah. And they ran the ball with Cristobal. You know how it goes with the offensive lineman. What did he want to do? Green light, push somebody in front of you, right? So they didn't really throw the ball at all much last year. So even we're thinking if they increase throwing the ball 50%, it's going to feel like a ton this year.
Well, it'll be good because you guys got that offensive line, like you say, returning. That'll help the run game, and it should help Bo Nix. I don't know how much you watched him at Auburn, but Bo Nix can get a little cavalier back there in the backfield back there when he's trying to make, because he wants to make the play. That's the problem. He wants to make the play instead of
the
taking.
Auburn people were telling me you're going to say, Bo, no.
Sometimes the play is to throw the ball away, and that's not really in Bo Nix's arsenal. He wants to make the play. I mean, he has a talent. When he's on. Is it sometimes it's like, all right, Bo, take the sack, dog. Like, good. Take the sack.
In his defense, a little bit, he was running for his life too.
That's what I was getting to.
Line, right?
Yeah, he didn't have the offensive line that you guys have. The thing is, can he? What is it? Dillingham? Can he get into his system? How fast he gets acclimated to that? How fast the defense gets acclimated to Dan Lanning? Dan Lanning calls a lot of, like you said, exotic stuff. And I think you guys definitely had the athletes to run that stuff. It's just how fast do they catch on to the lingo, to the scheme, and all the things that he wants, and get comfortable and just go out there and be able to play.
Oh, I mean, last year in the Ohio State game, biggest game of the whole year for the Ducks, they had one play where they got burned. They threw over the top. DBs were still looking at their on the what the call sheet was. They hadn't even got the call in. They're still looking at the thing. Dude's already over the top for a touchdown. Dude's still looking at his wristband. So no, and that was week 2. I mean, it takes a while. You're right. It takes a long time to get the scheme right, to get the verbiage right, and hopefully they had enough time. You know, the way that this came in with this transition is you had the whole spring to work with. You know, you got it down pretty good. So I think Cristobal, you know, even though there might have been some negative thoughts about Cristobal leaving or whatever, I think it was a smooth transition. He left the cupboard stacked. He got 3 solid recruiting classes back to back, the best recruiting class we've ever seen at Oregon. A lot of young talent in the room. And you know, and he went to his alma mater. You can't hate on a dude for going to his alma mater. Who's going to say no to Miami if you're from Miami? I mean, come on.
Listen, man, I try to tell people that all the time, man. These big-time coaches want these big-time jobs, especially if that big-time job is their alma mater. I try to tell people, it's like, oh, well, Kirby might replace Nick Saban when he retires. No, he's not. He played at Georgia. He's from Georgia. He's building Georgia the way he wants to do it. The dude's about to have a statue if he makes it to another national championship.
Well, and
he ain't going nowhere.
Right, and he's old enough, and he's been around, and he knows Bama wasn't all that before Saban got there. Bama had their ups and downs before. They weren't the all time. It's not like the New York Yankees.
Exactly.
You know, so he thinks in his mind, why can't we be the next Bama? Why can't we stock up another 10-year run here and get these dudes rolling in, get these recruited classes going in, get these NFL classes going in? Because I swear, every time they go to the NFL and they ask at the beginning of the game where they tell the dudes where they come from, the college, whatever, they tell the starting lineup. That's another recruit. That's another recruit.
Exactly.
That's another recruit. Every time that dude says Georgia, boom, you got another one. You got another one. And so we count very closely, the pro Ducks we have, because we don't have as many. You had 15 go off the team last year. I mean, come on, we're gonna have 1. So I mean, you got to give respect on that level. So what Kirby's doing is legitimate. It's authentic. It's organic. It's all the things. It's not forced. People love him there. Obviously, he's winning, so that helps. But he's in a situation where, like you said, he gets to another national championship, wins another one. They'll be able to build a statue for him, and he might go the Paterno. He might go the Paterno route. They can't get him out.
Hey, it could be like that. I can't say, I'm glad to say that I was a college. I mean, we didn't know each other, but I was a college technically schoolmate when Kirby was there. So, that's why it feels different for Kirby to be doing it. That's why I don't worry about him leaving at all. Like, I think it may turn into one of them situations like like you said, Paterno without the negative stuff, or rest in peace Bobby Bowden, where they like, all right, Kirby, it's, you might just need to be a consultant, dog.
That's kind of my take, is because there's not many of those guys left. These guys, they don't spend that much time at these universities now. Pressure's too high, this, that, and the other. They get paid enough. They go to the lake house. Shit, they got money. They got money to burn, man. They can do whatever they want. I mean, think about Jimbo's bank account in another 5 years.
Bro,
I mean, I'm telling you, he's gonna get that money.
him and doggone Lincoln Riley, boy.
Paterno was getting like 30-40 grand a year. Paterno was working like he was like a teacher in the off season. He was doing stuff like he was a janitor or something. He was from the old school, man. They weren't floating huge money to him. But
for real.
The big thing, talk about that, you know, with Dan Lanning coming over here, you know, Oregon was very fearful of when Cristobal left. Oregon was like, well, we need to get somebody who's close to the program or who's an alumni. And the conversation they had was Justin Wilcox, dude who's just literally from right down the road. He's from Junction City, which is literally 15 minutes from Eugene. He's down at Cal. You know, they think he's the guy. And supposedly the way it went, they offered him the deal. He said no. He's at Cal. And now he doesn't even know what's going on at Cal. But it feels like with the Lanning hire, they hired a guy who's not from here, but he thinks that maybe this could be a place that he might want to make his. And I think these coaches really look at an opportunity when they look around the landscape and say, where can I be competitive? Where's the best program for me? And this might be the best spot for Dan Lanning. And the only other spot I think going over from here is something like going back to the SEC, going back to do something maybe as a bigger school somewhere else that's a powerhouse. Because I do feel like Dan Lanning's got something going on at Oregon. If he can put a couple good 3 years together, he might be in a position as well where he can stay as long as he wants.
Well, I think with Oregon being the brand that they are, especially with the backing behind with Nike, like if he was to come back to the SEC, it would have to be a big program like a Florida, like a Georgia, like a Bama, LSU, Texas A&M type deal. I don't think he's leaving for like a Ole Miss. Not nothing against Ole Miss, but Ole Miss ain't the brand that Oregon is. You know what I'm saying? Not for nothing. If I'm not mistaken, Dan Lanning is originally from like Kansas or something. So it's like
so maybe
it's not like he's
Texas or something. You know?
Like going to Texas or Oklahoma or something like. It's gonna have to be a big brand because Oregon is a big brand. And speaking of Lanning, man, let's jump into that schedule. First game, Lanning versus Smart, man. I mean, I'll probably come on your show. We'll do a real breakdown.
I would love to, of course.
The week of, but just what are your overall thoughts on the game?
Well, you know, like I kind of liken it to where we were at last year with Ohio State. You know, I'm a glass half full guy in my life. I'm a high school educator, so I kind of feel like I have to be Mr. Positivity, right? Because I see enough of this negativity out there. So I always think the Ducks are in it, you know. But I did not think the Ducks were going to win at Ohio State last year. I had some question marks about the offense. You know, it was coming off of COVID. The year before wasn't that great. You know, you have the new quarterback. There were some questions there. The first game wasn't that great. It kind of survived that first week, and you're at Ohio State. I mean, this is one of the biggest brands out there. I mean, you want to talk about the Yankees? That's Ohio State. They can just print those championships up there. They're in the running every goddamn year. Yeah. And they get the recruiting every year, too. They be killing it. So
they be up there.
Murdering it. I mean, and from anywhere in the country, California, they already have the Midwest on lock. All those kids are there. But they're going to Florida, get kids, Texas. They can go wherever they want. So I kind of had that thought last year of, hey, you're going to the Horseshoe. This is going to be a rough game. Hey, I just want the Ducks to, do well. You know, if they're in it in the fourth quarter, then great. We got a ball game. Let's see what can happen. Which is kind of what happened. They jumped out on them. I think Ohio State was a little shell-shocked. It's their first game that they hosted after COVID for a full year or whatever. And maybe they just over their skis a little bit. They had the young quarterback too. They had some issues. And Oregon just did what they needed to do to win that game. And that was literally the biggest non-conference win in the history of the program. And there's no doubt about it. It is a game changer. And it was a humongous thing for the Pac-12. I mean, Oregon's been carrying the Pac-12 on the back like for a while now. That one was big. That was big because other than that, I mean, Pac-12 hasn't won a bowl game since Justin Herbert. I mean, seriously, it's been 2 years since they won a bowl game. I mean, that's
I did not know.
That's brutal, okay? That's why they're talking about ending the conference. That's why this thing is Armageddon out here. So I go into the same kind of thing, and then I was heavily, obviously surprised by the Ohio State win last year, and I was over the moon. So then it changed my perspective of the whole season. Okay, well, hey, we beat Ohio State. Pac-12, let's get after this. Let's win this conference, boy. And same thing goes with this year. You know, you got the returning champions. You're going in their backyard. I'm going to be there. I'm going to Atlanta with my son. I bought the tickets the day after they hired Dan Lanning. I was like, this is on. I'm on it. I'm on it because those are fun games anyway, but this is like a storybook, Disney kind of thing. You get the defensive coordinator after their championship. He comes over here. He's got the respect. We're trying to build the program. They're already there. They're at the national championship, but the first one since back in the day. I mean, this is a storybook thing. It's in Atlanta at the big stadium. I mean, this is the kickoff. It's going to be everything, you know. But Georgia got a lot to rebuild from last year. They had a hell of a team, but they have a huge reload. Of course, they will because they're athletes. They got the elite of the elite. But we think we may have a shot. I mean, I'm going into it thinking the same thing. Like, what if we get it in the fourth quarter and you're still close in the fourth? What could happen? And if it can happen and show up, then let's do this thing. And it might pump me up for the rest of the year. I don't think they're going to win. Realistically, I'm going in with that mindset this year. If Oregon can not turn the ball over and maybe get one turnover, I think they're in it, at least at halftime. You know, last year, the biggest problem, like we talked about, was the defense on the third down. But on the offensive side, they just gave up too many turnovers. They'd have the ball fumbled, throw the ball up, give a pick six, this, that, and the other. That's demoralizing, especially in a game like that where you need to have it close the whole game. I think in the trenches, they're going to have their hands full, especially dealing with Georgia's D-line, right? The Oregon offensive line is going to have their hands full. But if they can get the ball out quick, you know, one of the things I think Oregon has a unique kind of, not leverage, but a little bit of something up their sleeve is we don't really know what this offense is. And we don't really know what exactly you're going to get. No, you might have a little bit of Norvell. You might have a little bit of, you know, whatever else is out there. But you don't know what you're going to get. This guy's worked for 5 different coaches, but he's never been his own guy, right? Even when he was with Gus Malzahn called the plays. So, you know, that Bo Nix first year, you know, Dillingham was the OC, but it was getting Malzahn's offense. Yep. So what are you going to get with this? We don't really know. And we kind of think right now that Dan Lanning is going to really give the offense a lot of autonomy because he's going to be focused on the defense. It feels like he's on the defensive side and the offense is like, just go do what you're going to do.
That would be the best thing. That would be the best thing. So
maybe they can pick up some first downs. Maybe they can move the ball on a Georgia defense that is one of the best in the country and going to return as one of the best in the country. But it's all about Oregon's defense. If Oregon's defense can control Georgia's running attack and make them throw the ball over the top, maybe get an interception, maybe make a play here or there, then I think we're in it. So I think it could be close, but I still think Georgia's going to win.
Yeah, I think it's a good matchup. Like you say, Dan Lanning got some insight on how Kirby likes the game plan. I mean, you can watch film. Everybody say, oh, he's going to know the calls and all that. If you watch the games and you're a coach at that level, you've seen the whole year of Kirby, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of what Kirby likes to do. You should be able to know that anyway. I think it'll better help him. Like I say, he knows how what Kirby's mentality is going into the game. I think it's going to be interesting. The point you made about Dan Lanning just letting the offense be the offense. In my experience, first-year defensive head coaches tend to not let that be the case. Will Muschamp did it. Kirby Smart. Listen, last year was the first year that Kirby Smart really let the offense be the offense. You know what I'm saying? It's like beforehand, it was the offense is a part of my defensive game plan. You know what I'm saying? Let's not put our defense in bad situations. Yes. So sometimes they got like I say, and it took a little while. Now Lanning's been under. He actually was at Alabama a year or two, so he got to see Saban, he got to see Kirby. So maybe he doesn't start like that. But just like I say, in my experience, that's kind of what it is, and that would be key. Like if he says, "All right, we're gonna play it safe because I know Georgia got talent." I felt like Clemson played it safe. Not that they were going to beat us, I don't know, but I felt like they played it safe a little bit, and that got DJ in trouble. You know what I'm saying? On our side, we played it a little safe. In those big games, it's like, I don't want to be the guy to make the mistake. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody wants to be that guy. I think it's going to be athletes all over the field, defensively and offensively. I think it helps that Dan Lanning knows Kirby. I think it helps that Kirby knows Bo Nix and a little bit of Dillingham. So, I mean, of course, I got the Dogs winning. I mean, I'm biased, I'm alone. But I think top to bottom, I think you guys, linebacker-wise, middle linebacker, you definitely got the edge because of Noah Sewell and Justin Flo. I will say that we did lose 15 people to the draft. We'll be returning 4 people on defense. The year prior to 2021, we only returned 4 people on defense, though. That's
what I said. Reload. It's reload.
But we don't have a Jordan Davis. You know, we do have a couple of guys that we do have a Jalen Carter and a couple of guys that we think are going to replace. But it's the first game. It's going to be about who can stay composed, you know, and not let the lights be too bright is what I'm thinking. You guys can go all out. Not that I want to disrespect any team, but you guys can go all out because you got Eastern, Washington the next game. You know what I'm saying? It's like you don't have to worry about, even if you lose, if you do lose, then you don't have to worry about it beating you twice because you got another juggernaut right behind it. You know what I mean? You got time to get your bearings.
Right. And I do think because the first week is a lot different than the Ohio State game last year in the second week. You know, you got the whole year to think about Georgia. You know how we always do as coaches. Oh, no, we got to talk about week one. Last year was all about Fresno State. Come on. Everybody wanted to know about Ohio State. They were all thinking about going to Ohio State. That's why the first game came out so soft probably. But, you know, coaches, you got to lean back on it. You got the faceless opponent. We got to get that first one first. This is a big deal that it's the first one. And I do think that they're going to have, you know, a lot of energy in the building. It's going to be probably 90% Georgia fans, 10% Duck fans. But I'm telling you, Duck fans are going to represent. We do our thing. You know, we're a small school out here on the edge of the continent, but we do what we do. You know, and we go into those buildings. We try to make as much noise as possible, and we have fun with it. I think this is a year where it's a win-win situation to have this game for Oregon at Georgia. I don't think there's anything negative about it. You get you all the hype all year on ESPN. They'll be hyping it every single time on SportsCenter. They're going to be running that banner on the bottom of their screen, showing the G, showing the O. They're going to be hyping this thing up. And, again, talk about that recruiting thing. This is one of these games that the average football team does not play. You got to be good enough to be in one of these games. They're not asking Tulane to come into one of these things. They're not asking, no offense to TCU. They're not asking. You have to be good enough of a brand and market enough of a brand to be able to be in these games anyway. So this is a huge recruiting opportunity. Go to the South, have some fun. For a lot of Duck fans, it might be their first opportunity to see SEC football live down there. We know how it is. They bring it. And, I mean, I remember the first time I heard the SEC chant. You know, I mean, I was like, wow. You know, that was that Auburn game, that Cam Newton. And I'm like, these dudes are chanting their conference. I mean, bro, we're up against this.
It's fanatical down here, man. It's crazy now. So from that first 6 games, you got Georgia, Eastern Washington, BYU, at Washington State, Stanford, and Arizona. What are you thinking for that first 6 games? What do you need to be? Do you need to be 5-1, 6-0, 4-2?
Probably. I mean, I think you're looking for 10 wins for the season. I think you're looking 9-3, 10-2. You know, I like that BYU game a lot. You know, BYU, bro, don't sleep on them. They come off that mission. They're all 25, 26 years old. Half them they're married.
It's like coaches versus players.
Half that team is married. They're going home. Their wife's already on their case. They got kids. I mean, these dudes are grown. And they play a pretty good brand of football. Kalani Sitake was a dude. And they interviewed Kalani for the job here for Dan Lanning before. I mean, so obviously they're doing something right. Last year they're 5-0 against the Pac-12. That's got to work, you know. And it's a big game for them early in the season. Week 3 at Autzen, primo schedule. It's going to be on Fox 12:30. That's a game that you can't sleep on. So I do think Oregon's going to be fired up for that game. I think Oregon's going to win that game, but that's going to be a big test. Outside of the Georgia game, the BYU game is the most exciting one in the early part of the year. Obviously, at Washington State's always sketchy. Going up there, it's one of the smallest arenas in the conference, but it's one of the loudest. Martin Stadium, dude, no joke up there. And if they start scoring points, you never know what's going to happen. But we play them early in the year, so it's going to be nice. Usually you play them late in the year, and it's terrible weather up there. It's frozen and whatnot. Stanford's always tough. Got to give shout out.
I wanted to ask you, why is it this? Even back to the Chip Kelly days, Stanford is like, it was back then it was Stanford, Oregon, and it's like even now they still like that thorn in the side. What is it, man? They wasn't even on y'all level last year.
Dude, they're like Notre Dame. They can go to any school in the country and pick the best kid in that school. The kid who's a 4-point, 3-sport athlete, just stud. And they'll be like, come on. They can go. There's not many schools that recruit in any school in the country. I mean, that's pretty rare, right? Stanford's one of those schools. Yes, they have the academic hurdle, but they make do with it. And they have great athletes. There's not a barometer of intelligence and athlete. You can have both. And, you know, Stanford's also a team. It feels like they just do their thing and they do it very well. It's a very calculated offense. They use the tight ends a lot. They kind of sneak guys in the backfield. They kind of put guys in the flat. They run some weird stuff sometimes where it's just delayed action or other. There's kind of a throwback team. They don't need to go up and over the top. They don't need to have a wild sort of concept. They're just going to run what they're going to run. They also run that power. They also run that double tight end move where they get like 8 offensive linemen on the field at once and they just shove it down your throat. They know they're going to get the first down. The Arizona school is always kind of interesting because Arizona is always a tough place to play. Down there is always tough, right? Tucson, they get it in, and I think Arizona's markedly improved this year. I think Arizona was really bad last year. I think they won the offseason from their perspective. They got a transfer in conference, Jaden DeLora, who came from Washington State, who I really like as a quarterback. And then you got UCLA. You know, UCLA last year was a really, really close game.
I like this game because it's Chip Kelly versus Oregon.
Kelly, right? And you got to love Chip. And plus, I feel like they're building something there. You know, they got in a little bit of a lull where maybe Chip was on the hot seat, but they got DTR coming back. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I think, is a great quarterback. He's got a little wild with his interceptions. He throws the ball a little bit too much into trouble, but you know Chip's going to bring something to the table, and you know. Whenever he comes back to Eugene, he likes to get there. He likes to get the picture with the duck and everything. He kind of gets into that sort of thing. So the first half of the season, I think is going to be challenging. But I actually think that it's the Georgia and BYU game that are the hardest games the first half.
I think it's the Georgia and BYU too. Like I said, I think you're a better team than Stanford, but everybody's got that Achilles heel that sometimes you just don't play as well. Even if you win, you just don't play as well as you should have. That second half of the season is set up nice. Like I said, you got Chip Kelly coming in, but that Utah game, you guys, I know, like you say, we in the coaching world, you try to tell your kids one game at a time, but you cannot tell me Oregon fans, Oregon administration, just the whole Duck Nation, players included, not looking forward to that Utah game.
Dude, that was horrible last year. The way that Utah ended the season was so bad. It was so bad. Like
I picked you guys to win. I said, "There's no way Oregon loses that way the first time, and then turns around and loses again."
And I was in Vegas for the second one, and here I am. I'm drinking margaritas. I'm all having fun. Everything. All of a sudden, look at the score. We're down 2 touchdowns. What the hell happened here? After Devin Lloyd took that ball back for that pick 6, I was like, "Oh, it's gone. We're done. Here's another one." I didn't. You know, you got to tip the cap, though. I mean, I think Oregon was a little bit kind of running on fumes a little bit. They had the high point of their season with the Ohio State game. Can't take that away from them. But they just fizzled down the stretch. And they did have a lot of stuff going on. You had some transfers. Micah Pittman transferred halfway through the year. That was like a red flag. You could tell the canary in the coal mine. And then you have, Cristobal leave. And maybe there was rumblings about that early or whatever the case was. They didn't end the season well. So, yes, as soon as you got off the plane back home from Vegas when Utah kicked your ass for the second time, you better circle that the next year on the calendar. That better be the one. I mean, come on. But, the end of the season is kind of wild. I think Cal's probably going to be the worst team in the conference this year. From my perspective, I don't see it this year. They didn't do that well last year. I thought they'd be better last year.
Okay.
But at Colorado's always tough because up in Boulder. But the Husky game. The Huskies is one of those things, just like you said about Stanford, it's always close. They hate us, and we hate them. It's one of those rivalries. I mean, it's like the Florida kind of a situation, right? For it's like you respect them, but you hate them at the same time. It's not like the little brother situation with Oregon State, where it's just like, all right, right on. No, you got to go win at Washington. It's a big deal, and so Washington coming home to us, I think is a big thing. So that last 3 games is gonna be tough. Washington, Utah at home, and then you go at the road for the Beeve game. I think the Beavs are going to be one of the sleeper teams in the Pac-12. I think they are going to be a team that's going to be inching up. They were at 6 wins last year. I think they get to 7 or maybe even 8 wins this year. They're going to surprise some teams. If they stay healthy, I don't know if they have the depth, like we said before, but that's a really good coach. They bring back their quarterback. They've got talent in the room. They've got good skill guys. It's just whether or not they have enough depth to hang on the defensive side through the injuries. So I actually like Oregon to win most of these games. Until they beat Utah, it's hard for me to tell me that they're going to beat Utah this year, okay? I think they can. I just don't know if they will. And I'll be there, of course, in the building for Hodgson Stadium. But I would see if they go 10-2 and lose to Georgia and Utah, I don't think that's a terrible season. And if Utah is doing big things at the end of the year and they've already run through the rest of the conference, I don't feel bad about that at all. Now, if Utah trips up earlier in the season and they've already got 2 or 3 losses by the time they get to Oregon. Then Oregon should be beating them.
I got you.
But I don't have a mindset every year where it's like the team's going to go undefeated. I think that's a little absurd.
Yeah.
I think you have to find a loss or 2 in the season somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I told somebody. It's hard to, even if like Bama, I feel like Bama is gonna be back. You know what I'm saying? But it's hard for me to anytime give somebody a 12-0. But I think if somebody's gonna do it, it's definitely gonna be them. But you mentioned something about like at the end of the season, whether or not there was rumblings about Cristobal, looking elsewhere or whatever. Before the rumblings started, what would compare the feeling that you guys had for Cristobal or excitement around the program to the excitement that you have now with Dan Lanning?
That's a great question. I think it's kind of split. Our fan base tends to divide itself pretty quickly on things. I don't know if that happens across the country as well, but I think there was a group of people that were really confident with what Mario was doing. He came in here, he made it better from the Taggart year. He got to the Rose Bowl. He won a Rose Bowl. He was consistently in bowl games. He was consistently at 10 wins.
Recruiting.
Oh God, knocked it out of the park. Recruiting basically broke through the glass ceiling of you couldn't recruit at Oregon. Packed recruiting classes together. That was what my dad always said. He's like, dude, if we could just get a couple of these recruiting classes together, it'd be great. Because historically you'd get maybe one year, 2 years later another one. But historically Oregon was always in like the 30s or the 20s or the 50s. Mario was top 10 every year. And he won the Pac-12 recruiting every year. He was there basically. So he was an absolute dog in recruiting, and he still is. Look at what he's doing in Miami. He's killing it.
Hey, I got a chance to meet him, man. The dude is, I can see why. He's a genuine. Like, you talk to him, man, he seems like a genuine dude. I don't know if he is, but he seems like he is.
Wraps your hand around, dude. He's a big dude. I'm 6'2", 240. I look at him, and he feels hella much bigger than me. And every time I tell him, I said, Coach, you just made me want to go lift weights. I said, your energy makes me just want to hit the weight room. He's like, let's do it, bro.
I know, right?
Guy. He likes wrestling though. He likes the professional wrestling thing. He likes the idea the dude's coming in the ring, like hyped up. Like he's the dude who gets up after the game and just goes crazy after some of these games. So I think there were people who kind of like that. There were people who are like, we're a power team. We're gonna build the biggest offensive line we can. We're gonna push down and we don't care if we only win by a touchdown because we're gonna grind out the clock. There was the other group of fans was like, hell no. We want to be partying at halftime. We want to be up by 30 at halftime partying on the club level. We want to see touchdowns. We want to see fast. We want to see the uniforms. We want to see all this. Cristobal wore the same shirt for like 4 years. He was the same dude. He wore them black shoes with the black pants. His look was the same time. Dan Lanning's already over here changing outfits in the middle of the day. He's putting on different seats. He's coming in like that dude got hella energy. He's like PJ Tucker. He's wearing one pair. He got the other pair in his hand as he's walking through. And we've never even had a coach wear the sneakers. I mean, I'm telling you, it's authentic. Oregon, literally born. Nike was born out of Eugene. It's like, it was not forced. And we all know Nike. It's an absolute behemoth. But the roots of it are in Eugene, Oregon, like here.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm in Southeast Portland. I'm literally 5 minutes from where Phil Knight grew up, right down the block. I almost live in his neighborhood. That's where I grew up, Southeast Portland. So the connection there, I think there's a love of like this new coaching staff is like young and energetic, and they want to like embrace the brand. They have all the recruiting pictures now with all these kids. They're all doing different stuff. They're going with the flow. And Dan Lanning's got young kids. Mario had young kids too. And, Mario's kids were kind of upset with him leaving. Like, they didn't really want to go to Miami. They've been in Eugene for 4 years, like 5 years. Like, they had already established themselves a little bit.
You can't appreciate Miami as a young kid.
It helps to be a little bit older, right? I mean, it gets better with age. But the idea is that, you have a real excitement with Dan Lanning. There was some real trepidation. There was some real, like I said, it was divided during the coaching staff, during the coaching search. It was real divided. You had kind of one group that thought one way, one group that thought the other way. But I think there's a lot of excitement in the room. And I think actually, if you look at the future, the Ducks, it plays out really well. Look at what Dan Lanning did at that Pac-12 Media Day. He spent the first 2 minutes basically on a sales pitch.
Yeah.
He came out, he's like, hi, I'm Dan Lanning, the new coach. Okay, Oregon. Okay, we are the best team in our conference. We got the best recruiting. We got the best TV numbers. We got this, that, and the other. There's only been 9 teams to go to the national championship. We're one of them. We've done it twice. There's this, that, and the other. He's like, he lays it all out. He's like, basically, Big Ten, if you're listening, we're ready. You know, like he laid it all out. You know, and I don't know if Cristobal would do that. I think Cristobal would come out and be like, we're really excited about this year's football team. Next question.
Yeah. Cristobal's more of a, just from meeting him and being around him, I got to be around for about a full day. He's a blue collar guy. Like Dan Lanning is like, not for nothing. He knows his X's and O's, but he is definitely a rah energy, get up in your face. Like that's him all day, every day.
Yeah, and I think Dan Lanning's just willing to have more fun. I think Cristobal was not really about having fun. It was a workplace environment. We're here to work. We're here to grind. I think Dan Lanning is more like, it's more light. And the players have said so as well. I have communication with players on the team, and those guys I asked right out of the gate. I said, what's it feel like? How's the room change? Whatever. They said, we love it. And a lot of them said we were ready for a change. There were, I think you can only do that grind out mentality for so long. And you get an extra year with COVID. You got guys in the building now for 6 years in some of these cases with an injury or something. The message gets a little tired. You can only be screaming and yelling like that for so long, right? And I do think that the future is very bright for Oregon because I think it's going to be innovative. It's young. I mean, Dillingham's 34. I mean,
Dan Lanning's young too.
Lanning, he's younger than me. I'm 44. It's the first time I've seen a coach who's younger than me. I mean, I'll be feeling old for once. So it's an exciting time for sure.
That's what, from the outside looking in, it seems like. Not that he rejuvenated or anything. Like I said, I think Oregon's a brand that kids are excited about anyway because of the Nike culture, because of the uniforms. You guys I feel like you guys really started the arms race with the whole facilities, and they love that. Dan Lanning seems to fit right in, man. So right now, man, we got to get you locked in, man. Tell us what the record is going to be. You don't even have to tell me where the losses are going to come unless you want to. Just tell me what the record is going to be on the last day of college, the regular season of college football.
I would love to say 10-2. I would love to say get to 10 wins again. Maybe there's a loss in there. Maybe you beat Utah, but you lose to Stanford. I wouldn't be surprised about that. We've seen that before. Oh, my Lord. Lose to the team you're supposed to beat the team you're supposed to, whatever. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon came out firing. If Oregon beat Georgia, I would be absolutely over the moon in Atlanta partying. I'd be hitting the Diamond Club after the game or whatever else, throwing money in the air. It'd be a once in a lifetime opportunity. You have to go big. But I'm expecting more of go out there that first week and see what you got. And if you can really hang with Georgia and put up a good number on the scoreboard, score points against that type of defense, you're not going to see that type of defense the rest of the year in Pac-12.
No.
There's nobody out here.
You won't see that type of defense until Utah. And in Utah, not that level, but maybe some athletes, but not that level. You're right.
And I think you're right on that a little bit with Whittingham, because I think he's probably the best coach in the Pac-12, and especially the way he schemes defense. The guy and his teams get better as the year goes on, which is also a good sign for a head coach. Yeah. But nobody's got it like Georgia.
That level,
Nobody's got it like Georgia. So if you go out first game, first week, put points on the board. If Oregon scores 20, 30 points on Georgia, that would be insane. I would be blown away. Georgia had how many weeks last year did Georgia not even get scored on? I think there was like a 3-week stretch.
We had 3 games that we held. We held 3 opponents to 0 last year, and then we went like 4. South Carolina was the first team to score a offensive touchdown on us.
It was absurd. It was absurd. So how is Oregon going to beat Georgia? Are they going to win a game 21-14, 24-21? I don't see them scoring that much on Georgia, right? So it's like you better have the defense playing well that first week if you're Oregon to be able to win this game, because I don't think you're going to put much on the scoreboard. Well, but if you do, then dude, you can look at the rest of the year and be like, whoa, we're going to light this thing up this year, including BYU. So, I would love to see it as a 10-win season, go to a good bowl game. It's Dan Lanning's first year. Of course, would I like to see undefeated and go to the playoff? Because I think that's the only way a Pac-12 is going to get in. You have to go undefeated. It has to be beautiful. Glorious. I still think you could go undefeated out here and still get kicked out of the thing by somebody else. Pac-12 is just, that's how it is right now.
Depends on which team it is that what goes undefeated. That's the thing.
But I would love to see. This is what I'd like to see. I'd like to see Oregon go 10-2, USC go 10-2, USC and Oregon play together at the championship game. I tend to think whoever beats Utah should be in that game. Utah's returning champion. We play Utah, so does USC. But Oregon doesn't play USC in the regular season.
Nope.
So I would love to see it play out that you got USC, which everybody gives respect to across the country. That helps our brand. If USC is doing good this year, it helps our brand. That if we could get to the end, and if Oregon could beat USC in a Pac-12 championship game, even with 2 losses, I still think that's a hell of a year. And you put yourself in a situation where you're 11-2 going into your bowl game, or maybe even with if crazy stuff happens in some sort of playoff scenario. But I don't live by the code of it's national championship or bust or playoff or bust. I don't think Oregon can do that. I think you can if you're Georgia. You put it on the line last year. It wasn't that Bama was bad last year. Georgia was better.
Yeah.
I mean, just straight up. I mean, Bama's going to be bad. Hell, Georgia never left. Bama never left. I mean, so it's like, I can already pencil it out. You got 3 spots already taken, right? You guys, Bama, and Ohio State already got a seat at the table. You got 1 spot left for the rest of the country. That's the way we look at it, right?
And it could definitely play out like that. It could definitely play out like that. So
and so Oklahoma might have something to say about that if they win their conference or they do something big there. Maybe it's a Pac-12 school. Maybe it's somebody else in the Big Ten, like Michigan, like they did last year. So I don't know. But my point is that it feels like the only way to get there for the Pac-12 is if you win out. And if you're Oregon this year, winning out means beating Georgia in week 1 in Atlanta. So we'll see.
That's and I think if I'm not mistaken, I have to look it up. I think Vegas got y'all at 8.5 or 9 on the win total. I think that if you're Vegas, that's good because you're going to get me to bet that, right? And you're going to get somebody else who's a hater to bet on the other side. They're just trying to get money flowing. I try to tell people sometimes it's not about them actually predicting who's going to win, what the rest of it. Sometimes they need to bump up the betting. You know what I'm saying? So
exactly. I mean, 8.5 would get me to bet it. 8.5 would get me to bet it because I think we'd get 9.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I think, let's see what they have for y'all here. 8.5 is what they have.
And what's the number for the Georgia game? Is it still like 17?
Last I checked, it was, I think we were 15-point favorites. 15. Yeah, 15.
So even there, that's kind of making somebody want to take the money from the Oregon side too.
Yeah.
If you're floating that out at 16, 17, 15, outrageous sort of number, somebody's going to take that money. I mean,
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised for Vegas if it goes to like I say, it's 15 now, or at least the last time I checked. I wouldn't be surprised if it went to 16, 17 because they like to put those numbers right there. Like that's too much, but it's Georgia. You know what I'm saying? It's like we guys like that's too much. It's like I don't know. It's right there on it. So that's what they like to do.
But
if I had
go ahead.
I was gonna say if I had to do the win totals, like I would say 9. Only because, like, of course, for those watching, Vegas win totals are done. You get a point for a win, a half for a toss up, nothing for a loss. If I had to call it, I'd say, like I say, until you do it, you lose to Utah. Of course, I think you lose to Georgia, and I think there's a half a game toss up, half a point toss up for UCLA and BYU. Only because of where they fall in the schedule. BYU, if you were playing them at the back end of the season, I think it might be a blowout. You guys might blow them out, but because BYU's schedule is monstrous. But you guys got them at the beginning of the season. Luckily, you got that Eastern Washington game in between the Georgia. I'm glad you guys are not playing BYU right behind Georgia. I don't think that would be. I'm not saying y'all would lose, but I don't think that would be a good performance by the Ducks. And then UCLA because it's chilly. I mean, I'm still holding out.
And I think UCLA is going to have something for USC at the end of the year. I think UCLA this year is going to be a good team. I think they're right there. I think they're on that second level going to be, if they can make some things happen, they could get to that top tier.
Yeah, and I personally have Utah in the Pac-12. I just don't know who they're going to play. I think it's going to be Oregon or USC. Depends on what you guys do against UCLA, what they do against what UCLA does against USC, things of that nature. And like you said, I mean, honestly, I've never really Washington hasn't been good since they made the playoffs, so I never really paid attention. But you guys, you said that's a hard game for you. Plus, Stanford's always waiting in the wings for some reason. So
and Oregon State this year is on the climb. I think Oregon State's better. I think Oregon State's going to beat Washington this year. So again, anything goes out here. It's the Wild Wild West, and that's why Pac-12 for years has been out of the running on this because we goddamn cannibalize everybody out here. We never have a true champion. We can never have a team just run through the thing like Oklahoma does in the Big 12 and say, look at us, we're undefeated and we've been crushing these schools. You know, nobody want to talk junk about that. They want to say, oh, look at Pac-12, it's tough, man, it's terrible. They're always losing to each other. Oh, we got some good talent out here. And every week you never know what you're going to get. That's the other thing is that there's different schemes out here. There's different defenses, there's different offenses, and you got to play your card. Everybody has this across every conference. Don't get me wrong, but the Pac-12 has been a very innovative conference in their last 15, 20 years. There's been a lot of crazy stuff. We had Mike Leach out here. I mean, we had Chip Kelly out here. We had some crazy things happening. So and David Shaw. David Shaw is also a dude. He does things completely different. Everybody starts running spread offense. He tightens it up.
And runs pro style.
Oh, dude, yeah, with 8-man front. Yeah. He's bringing offensive linemen in his tight ends. I mean, they're switching jerseys on the sideline and stuff. I mean, he does some crazy things. So, no, you're right. If you put it at 9, I like that number.
I think that's a good number for Dan Lanning. In the first year, like I say, there's going to be some growing. I'm not going to say growing pains, but just things to get used to when you're bringing in a brand new staff with a brand new lingo and everything. But the good thing is I got it at 9 or higher because of the athletes you guys have. You guys didn't have the Justin Flows, the Noah Sewells. If you didn't have that, then I'm like, what? 7 and 5 would be good if you didn't have those type guys. You know what I'm saying?
And I've been saying that the whole time. Lanning does not take over a team that regular coaches take over. Most of the time it's a rebuild. There's no rebuild here. He came in as turnkey. So let's go. Let's get it in. And now you got high expectations. But the going back to the number on the Florida or on the Georgia game, that 15 number, that's just a turnover on defense. That's a pick 6 and a touchdown on offense. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, So you're going to get a lot of people on the Georgia side to take that number too.
Well,
a lot of Georgia fans like, 15, that's easy money.
Now, if you're not, listen, man, I'm in the midst of it. I ain't gonna lie. Like, anytime your team is winning like that, you have that section of the fan base that think we're invincible and it's gonna be a 30-point blowout. And I can tell you in big games, I can always find a reason why it's gonna be close.
Yeah,
I don't care who the opponent. But
Vegas loves that part of the fan base, man. Vegas needs that part of the fan base. They got a new expansion they got to put on.
That's right, man. We want to thank Ryan for getting in here, bringing us that Oregon Duck fever in here, man. And for Ryan, Coach Eyes, the fan at it, man. We out of here.
We got it jumping like it's that valley. I call my dogs out the pound. Let's go eat. Turn on the fan at it. Let's have a debate. Who really hold down the Southeast from state to state? What team home